Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host Sandman. Today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks to use when you are using your favorite Lishi tools on your favorite locks. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be covering quite a lot today. I probably have enough knowledge or information on Lishi tools that I could probably put out a new video every single week, but honestly it's pretty straightforward. I don't want to bore the intermediate and advanced lock pickers with this stuff. This is really just for people that are buying Lishi. You're getting into it for the first time, and maybe you are having a little bit of troubleshooting some of your locks. So let's go ahead and move on to my first recommendation, that when you get your Lishi tool, this collar right here actually comes off using that little set screw right there. Some people call them grub screws. They're set screws, essentially. Just use the little Allen wrench that comes with your Lishi, loosen that up, this collar comes right off, flip it over, and put that tension tool right here, this guy right here, on the back side, so that way we can use our index finger for tensioning instead of our thumb, because we want to replicate lock picking as much as possible. When I pick a lock, single pin picking or raking, because I'm right-handed, I typically tension with my left index finger. That's what that is for. That is for removing the collar and flipping this either way. There are not many people in the world that do this. I've been to Lishi lock picking competitions. I've watched dozens, if not, I don't know, a couple hundred Lishi lockpicking videos over the past 5-10 years, since these things became very popular for residential commercial, and there was like only one other lockpicker that understood this concept and flipped them over to the other side. So, but that's my first recommendation. The second recommendation is going to be making sure that you understand that the Lishi, maybe this should have been the first recommendation, but make sure that you are using the correct Lishi for the correct lock. Some people are like, oh, what Lishi should I buy? Well, what locks do you plan on encountering? My recommendation is that you invest in a KW1, an SC1, and master lock and an American lock. Anything else, is just extra. But yeah, I can pick quick set locks very easily within seconds. But it's nice to have a Lishi one, and if I was a locksmith, I'd want to decode it, so that way I don't have to take it apart to figure out what pins are in it. I can just decode it using a Lishi tool, and we can make a new key from there. Schleg locks can be quite tricky. I can pick them at will, okay, but they are still tricky, and sometimes locks just don't want to work for you, so it's good to have a backup option. Same thing with master lock and American lock. That would be recommendation number 2. Make sure you have the correct Lishi for the job. I see a lot of posts on social media where people will say like, I can't pick it, or the Lishi tool doesn't fit in the keyway. You just have the wrong tool for the lock that you're trying to work on. Recommendation number 3, don't be afraid to use a lubricant at all. For 15 years in locksport and as a locksmith, I was only a locksmith for about 6 months, but 15 years of being around locksmiths and being in locksport, it's an old wives' tale that if you add a lubricant to a lock, that it's going to be harder to pick. I used to believe that myself. Just this year, like just 2 months ago, I started adding lubricant regularly, and it has made picking locks so much easier, especially these cheaper locks where the pins are brass and the cores are brass, the plug is brass, everything is brass, and the brass really dries up. It really absorbs any type of lubricant from the factory and really dries up, and then they get corroded through oxidation or just, moisture in the air, humidity, anything is just going to make these things harder to pick. Might as well make it easier on yourself. And when I went to the Lishi lockpicking competition at the Texas Locksmith Association in 2023 in Pflugerville, Texas, they all were using lubricants. And Lishi even recommends to use a lubricant when you're going to use their tools. It just makes it easier. And it keeps you from bending and ruining or breaking your tools, because they are kind of delicate. So that's recommendation number 3. And let's see if there's a fourth recommendation. A fourth recommendation is you need to learn what the jiggle test is. So let's move right into picking locks. We're going to pick standard pins here. We have spool pins, all spool pins here, all serrated pins here. We have a mix of spool and serrated with master wafers, and we have 0 master wafers, but we have a mix of serrated spool and serrated pins, and this guy just gets harder and harder, but we're going to troubleshoot through all of this using the jiggle test. The jiggle test is by far the most important thing that you can learn using a Lishi tool, and it's one of the most important things you can use in lock picking, especially as you get into high security locks. So let's talk about the jiggle test. Let's talk about how to use a Lishi tool. And it's pretty straightforward. Everybody knows, you know, that you need to just insert this and start feeling for the pins, applying rotational tension, and then you're going to find the shear line of the pins between the key pin and driver pin, and you'll open the lock. We need to make sure that this thing is actually nice and flush, that this shoulder here, right here, this shoulder here and here, right in between there, actually sits nice and flush against the core of the cylinder. There are sometimes locks where I'll put them in, it just doesn't sit flush. Guess what? You're not going to be able to pick this lock correctly. So we want that shoulder to be flush against the face of the cylinder. I'm applying my rotational force. How much you apply is going to be different. If I say a mid-level, medium amount of tension, that could be something completely different to you. So we're all going to have to figure out what that tension is. As we get into security pins, we're going to have to apply variable tension, which means we're going to have to back off a little bit. And sometimes I have to apply more tension, especially with dealing with serrated pins. So let's go with this lock, master lock number 3. I have the M1, so it's an M1 keyway, and we're going to start off with pin number 1. And pin number 1 is springy. Okay, that's when I say nothing on 1. Pin 1 is springy. We're looking for binding pins. So I'm going to go to pin 2. Pin 2 is springy. Go to pin 3. Pin 3 is springy. Let's go to pin 4. Pin 4 is binding. That's what we are looking for. I'm going to, while pressing on this, I'm going to press down on pin 4. It's going to lift up pin 4 actually, and I'm going to lighten up my tension just a little bit to allow that pin to move a little bit more freely since it is binding. So lifting pin 4 while pushing down here, lifting. Okay, I feel an audible click. Pin 4 is set. Now we're going to do what's called a jiggle test, and we're going to make sure that pin 4 is set by doing a jiggle test. Watch this. That's the jiggle test. That's all it is. Do you see how pin 4 has all this slack? Okay. And if I go to jiggle test it, that jiggle test tells me that I'm touching the driver pin that is set above the shear line, and it's reacting against the spring, but it's not dropping back down. Okay. It's not dropping back down. So that means that pin is completely set. If this was hard, then that means the pin is not set and it still needs to be set, because that follows the pin states, which I will cover in another video. So that jiggle test, it checks positively on the jiggle test. Let's go to pin number 3. Used to be springy. Now pin number 3 is still springy. Pin number 2 is hard, and pin number 1 is hard. Let's go to pin number 2 and see if we can set number 2. I got to click out of number 2. Let's check it with the jiggle test. It seems to pass the jiggle test. All right, so it's jiggling, it's bouncing, but it's set. So let's go to pin number 1. Okay, pin number 1, I got to click out of 1, but it's not jiggling. It's just, it's not bouncing the way I want it to. So I'm going to hit it again. Boom, we went really deep with that one. That's a really high cut, shallow pin. Let's do the jiggle test on 1. There you go, we got the jiggle test on 1. Jiggle test on 2. We still have the jiggle test on 4. Let's go to pin number 3. Pin number 3 is binding. Lighten up on my tension just a little bit. Oh, and I got to click out of 3. There's a jiggle test. It's a very deep pin. I feel movement in the core, and I got that unlocked. That's it. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to go a little bit quicker this time. I don't think I need to explain everything again. Open up my tensioner here. Let's check pin number 1, springy. Pin number 2, binding. Pin number 3, springy. Pin number 4, binding. Let's try pin number 2 first. Okay, pin number 2, I got to click. Let's do the jiggle test. It's still binding. Let's try get another click. Oh, I got another click and I felt some movement in the core. Let's do the jiggle test. Passes the jiggle test. That means that pin is set. Let's go to pin number 3. Pin number 3 is now binding. Got to click out of 3, and it's kind of springy. Could be the jiggle test. I don't know. Let's skip it. Move on to another binding pin. Pin number 4. Oh, we got to click out of 4. Boom. That means number 1 was a 0 lift pin, and number 3 was just a very shallow pin. All right. Let's move on to our last master lock. Try to slow down on inserting these. Make sure that this tip is all the way back. Even if it's forward and down, it's still not safe. We want to put it all the way back so we don't bend it. And we're going to try to gently, carefully, there we go, find its way into the keyway. Open up your tensioner, apply some rotational tension, make sure it's flush. All right, here we go. Check pin number 1, springy, pin number 2, springy, pin number 3, it's binding, pin number 4, springy. So pin number 3 is the only pin that we can go with. See, there you go, got some movement out of 3, and I have a jiggle test here, test positive, so that means I set pin number 3. Let's go to 4, is binding now. Pin number 4, still hard. I got to click out of it, but still hard. Let's keep going. Okay, got another click out of 4. There we go. Pin 4 is jiggly. Pin 3. Oh, pin 3 is now hard. I dropped pin 3. Got to click out of 3. Now I have a jiggle test. And notice I'm farther down. I must not have had it properly set. So let's go to pin 2. Ooh, got to click out of pin 2. Doesn't pass the jiggle test. It's still stiff and hard. Let's keep going. Okay, got to click out of 2. I passed the jiggle test right here. Make sure you're actually on the pin for that jiggle test. And now we'll go to pin 1. Boom, and I got pin 1 set. All right, let's put that master lock aside. We're going to talk about some Lishi pick case options here after we run through these American locks. So these American locks are on loan to me by a friend that is a locksmith. These are actually one-bitted. O-bitted means that there's no cuts in the pin or the key. That means they're all 0 cuts in the lock, or no pins in the lock, I guess. No, they're all 0 cuts in the lock. These are all 1 pins, so 1 cuts in the lock. So that means it's all the same all the way across, and this key will fit this lock and vice versa. This lock is an American Series 1100. I think he pinned these up to have 6 pins in the core. Typically these comes with only 5 pins in the core, and this has all spools, so it should have about 6 spools in here. I have the AM5, which is an American, and the 5 stands for this type of keyway, so it's an American number 5 keyway. So let's open up our tensioner, make sure we're flush against the lock, okay, and let's start picking. So pin number 1, a little bit of movement out of pin number 1. I'm doing a jiggle test, and it's passing a jiggle test, but I already know that that's not where it needs to be. But we're going to move past it, and we're going to prove why that is. Number 2 is going into a jiggle test. Because this has spools, that's what we are looking at as a false set. Number 3, okay, I got that false set. Number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. So all of my pins feel like they're set. What's going on, Jesse? What's going on, Sandman? All of my pins are set, and they're passing a jiggle test, but I don't have an open. Well, that's because we're in a false set, and we don't even realize it. So I'm going to go past that false set. I'm going to, because these are spools, it's going to give me counter rotation, so I'm going to assist it with my middle finger here on the back, and I'm going to lighten up on my tension to allow it to counter rotate until I can set that pin. Let's see how that looks. You see it turning towards me? Boom, I got a click, and I got another click. That is possibly because these could be serrated spools, or that's just the spool getting past the shear line, but I'm not actually, I don't know what's going on with why there's 2 clicks there, but now we have a jiggle test. Let's go to pin number 2. It has a jiggle test, but I know that this has spools, so we're going to do that counter rotation there, get out of that spool. Boom. And we pass the jiggle test. Jiggle test, jiggle test. All right, number 3. Jiggle test. Number 4, I'm in the false set. And we got a jiggle test. Number 5, false set, jiggle test. Number 6, false set. And we got an open. I suspect that these are serrated spools, otherwise it's just the difference between the 2 clicks is very minute. You just haven't set I just haven't set this spool pin high enough. Now let's move on to this all serrations. Should be 6 pins. One-bitted, meaning number 1 cuts all the way across, meaning those are the number 1 pins. They're very shallow. Actually, no. They're very shallow. They're very shallow, yep. Very short pins. Let's start off with number 1. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to apply a little bit more tension because I'm not looking for counter rotation. Instead, I want to hold what I have, and I need more tension so I can get better feedback. Lighter tension, maybe not as much feedback. So let's see what we have on number 1 is binding. Got to click out of 1. And I have a little bit of a jiggle test here, but we're going to go past that. Number 2 is not binding. Number 3 is binding. Number 4, binding. Number 5, nothing. Number 6, nothing. Go back to number 1. Number 1 is now no longer springy. Let's hit number 1. Boom. Let's hit it again. Boom. Let's do a jiggle test. Nope, not there yet. Okay, now I have a jiggle test. Now we know number 1 is set. So that's what serrated pins do. That's what they feel like. They just go click, 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 pop. Or sometimes click, click, pop. So let's do number 2. Got to click out of 2. See, I'm getting a jiggle test here, but that just means it's not ready to be set. That's what I think. So let's go to number 3. Same thing with number 3. Let's go to 4. 4 is, I got to click out of 4, but it's still hard. Let's go keep moving it. Okay, good. Now I got a good positive jiggle test. So 1 and 4 are set. Let's go to 5. Okay, 5, I got to click out of 5. I'm getting this weird jiggly test, but I don't think it's set yet. Let's move past it. Number 6, not ready. Let's go back to 1. 1 is set. Let's go to 2. Oh, 2 is no longer springy. There you go, click out of 2. It's still hard. Let's get another click. There we go. That's the jiggle test we wanted. So we got jiggle test in 1, jiggle test in 2. 1 and 2 are set. Let's go to 3. 3 is now hard. Okay, still hard. Still hard. And we now have springy. So 1, 2, and 3 are set. Number 4 is set. Number 5 is now hard, no longer springy. It's ready to be set. 1 click. 2 clicks that time. And number 5 is set. Let's go up. Number 6 is now hard. And in binding, we need to set pin number 6 last. Okay, big click out of 6. Another click out of 6. Oh man, it looks like we're so close, but it's still not jiggling, so keep going. Boom, and we got an open. All right, last 2 locks. This Marathon oil, they had like 1,000 of these for like $9 on eBay. Not 1,000 for 9. If they had 1,000 of them in stock and they were selling for $9 each, and you know, if you bought like 20 or 40 of them at a time, you can get them for like $8 each. I think I bought like 10 or 12 of these at a time. Over the past year that I've had these, students of mine at my locksport meetup group or other groups that I attend will over-rotate the core because these are key retaining, and they will drop the driver pins into the core and it bricks the core. And because there's wafers and because there's security pins, I'm not able to unbrick them. So I'm slowly losing these to time and due to people not understanding how locks work. You definitely don't want to over-rotate an American lock core. So only rotate this as far as this key guard will allow you. But these Marathon locks will have about 4 to 5 wafers, 1 in each pin stack. And there's about 5 pin stacks that are filled with security pins as well. So wafers make a lock easier to pick, but because it adds more possibilities to the shear line, but we're going to see that it's still a difficult lock and we have no idea what type of security pins are above those wafers. So let's insert it all the way, apply rotational force, start with pin number 1. Pin number 1 is binding, and I got to click out of 1. Rotational force on 1, and I think pin number 1 is set. That's a real shallow front pin. I got the jiggle test there. Let's go to pin number 2. Click out of 2. Another click out of 2, and I have a bouncy. I have the jiggle test. It tells me pin 2 is set. Pin number 3 is binding. Ooh, got a click out of 3, and I got movement in the core. So now I have a spool on 3. I have a bit of a jiggle test here, but but because I saw movement in the core, I think I have the spool pin. So I'm going to go with counter rotation on 3. And it's not ready. It could be set because there's a jiggle test here. Let's move past 3. Maybe the movement in the core was pin 3 setting. Let's go to pin number 4. Counter rotation on 4. 4 is not ready. I don't want to force this thing towards me and drop everything. I want to go with the pin that is most likely to set. So let's skip 3 and skip 4. Let's go to 5. Counter rotation on 5. Got a click out of 5. Got another click out of 5. And boom, I got an open. That tells me number 3 and number 4 Probably could have been 0 or minimal lift pins, or maybe just by touching them just a little bit, I was able to set it at the shear line with that wafer. So that was some problem solving we had to apply there. This is key retaining. I'm not going to get my Lishi out until I close my shackle. Do not force your Lishi tool out. Now, theoretically, I should be able to pull it out because I don't have the pick sticking up, but I just went ahead and just closed it. And we have one more lock. Let's give this guy a try. Open up the tensioner. This one should be the hardest one of them all. It's just 5 randomized pins directly from Amazon. And so let's give this guy a try. It is locked, right? No, it's not locked. Whoa. All right, here we go. All right. Let's make sure everything is copacetic here. All right, it's inside the lock. Apply rotational force. 1 is springy. 2 is binding. 3 is springy. 4 is springy. 5 is binding. So let's try to set pin number 2. Okay, got to click out of 2. I got a jiggle test on 2, so I think 2 is set. Let's go to 3. 3 is now binding. Got some counter rotation on 3. 3 is now set, I believe. I'm getting a jiggle test on 3. Go to number 4. Counter rotation on 4. Okay, 4 is still hard, so these are serrated spool pins. So because I had counter rotation on 4, went past it, it's still hard. So that means I'm stuck in the serration on that spool pin. Let's go past that serration. And guess what? I just overset pin 4. So I kept going, and it just wasn't ready to be set. So what do? Do we let go and reset everything? No, let's first just try to drop pin number 4 by itself by just relaxing a little bit on our tension and finger here and control what we have. Okay. That's me dropping pin number 4. Let's check pin number 4. Let's go past pin number 4. It's still hard, but it's not ready to be set because we overset it. So let's go to pin number 5. Okay, got to click out of 5. And it's still kind of hard, but let's go back to pin number 1. There we go. We got movement in 1. I'm in a false set here in number 1. No. It passes the jiggle test. Pin number 1 is set. I just had so much movement in the core from setting that one pin. Let's go to pin number 2. Pin number 2 passes the jiggle test. It's just a very shallow pin. Pin number 3, I feel a jiggle test here. Pin number 4, jiggle test. Pin number 5, oh man. Oh, you know what? Hello. We have an open. Wow. So all the jiggle tests tested positively. I'm like, wait a minute, I guess what? And it's because these are sprung cores. These are spring-loaded cores, also known as sprung. There's a spring that applies a tension on the shackle here, and then there's a like a leaf spring almost, or a clock spring that applies rotational force against this cylinder, I believe, from where the cylinder makes contact with the actuator that releases, I believe this has ball bearings that will release the shackle. I don't remember if it has ball bearings or not, but it is a sprung core. So I had this thing picked and I didn't realize it because I had such great control over this guy that I wasn't applying too much force, but I needed to apply a little bit more once I realized it was open. And the best way to assess whether you have set those pins or not is using the jiggle test. I hope this was helpful for you today. Let's talk about some case options for these. I just bought this ITS Tactical Lishi pick case, and it just came in today, and I was waiting to do this video so I could see if this was something worth recommending, and I like it. There's not a lot of Lishi options for cases. Lishi doesn't make a case that fits their residential and commercial tool line just yet because of this large collar. They only seem to fit the automotive tools. I'm not a fan of there being elastic right here and right here because of the pick will snag on that, but I like the elastic here and here. If they just made this regular nylon and added elastic here and here, here and here only, I think this would be a better case. But all in all, I still think this is a case. I give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a quality case. This is cool because I can put my most favorite Lishi tools in here, and I could put this in I carry a crossbody bag. I forget that was called, but yeah, I carry a crossbody bag, and I'll probably throw this in there as my everyday carry. You never know when you need to help a neighbor. I'm not a big fan of this ginormous tag here, so I'll probably be cutting that off. But otherwise, it's a really nice case that I purchased. I think it was like $9 on sale. Probably sells for regularly 15 or 16 bucks. I think that's a great option. The other option you can go with is this thing called Global Vortex Pro. I think I bought this off of UHS, and this was actually very surprising and very good. It's a very strong magnet. It does not drop your tools whatsoever. You can put 4 tools in here, and you know, like it's this hard case. This is going to protect your investment. So this is really great if I wanted to keep this in my vehicle, or if I wanted to put this in a toolbox, or if I was a locksmith, I wanted to keep this in the van. This is a really great option. This will be more for in your pocket or in a bag or a fanny pack or something that you want to carry on you. This would be something you would probably carry off body. So this would be off body carry. This could be on body carry. Another off body carry would be if you have, let's say, 12 Lishis, you have a whole bunch of Lishi tools. This is a case. This is actually a Jimy Longs case, but it's also a US Peacekeeper case. So this is not the Jimy Longs case. The Jimy Longs case has a little pouch here for tension wrenches, and it's also excluding, what is it? He did some other changes to it, but it's basically the same company that makes this one. It's US Peacekeeper. They make the Jimy Longs case and this case. You can buy this case for like $5 or $6 on Amazon. And this is the absolute best case that I have been able to find. You could put 12 of these guys in this tool roll, rolls up perfect, and this would just go into an off-body carry. So I'd keep this probably in a larger case. Like this is what I take with me to locksport meetups. I can put this guy into this case, into one of these right here. Sorry, I know you can't see that. Let's back up here for a second. Whoa. That's as far as I can back up. So I would keep this in a case like that, or I would just keep this in my car. Because these are kind of expensive, I can't recommend keeping Lishi tools in your car in case they get broken into. These guys have been out since around 2017, 2018, the residential and commercial Lishi tools. Automotive Lishis have been out for at least, 10, 15 years, maybe longer, maybe 20 years. Invented by Mr. Lee in China, and I think they're awesome. I think they're worth the investment. However, when they first came out, about 2018 time frame, they only had 5 of them on the market for commercial residential, and they were $125 on average. Since then, you can now catch these guys sometimes at about $45 when they're on sale, or $50 to $70 regular pricing throughout the year MSRP. There are now about 12 to 14 different keyway options. Some of them not as common as others. I don't have all 14. I do have, I think, 12 total, or maybe somewhere between 10 or 12. I've lost count, but I really don't use them a lot. I use primarily the ones that are in here, which are the American lock, the master lock, and the Schleg and the quick set, because that's what I'm going to run into. I live in Austin, Texas, and that's my demographic. So I'll be running into these keyways primarily. That's all I have for today, folks. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope this was helpful. Let me know, was it helpful? For those of you that may be suggesting, Lishi does sell a pick case, a leather pick case for $60. It's really nice. I bought it, but it does not fit these Lishi tools because of these collars here. These collars are ridiculously large. It's not needed. I don't know why they did that. All it did was just make it impossible for them to fit their cases. So hopefully Lishi will eventually come out with their own leather pick case. That'd be super nice. Let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts? Do you plan on carrying Lishi tools? What is your favorite Lishi tool to carry? Do you have any recommended Lishi pick case options? I would love to know, and let's get that conversation going. If you're new here, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and help me get to 10,000 followers. And we'll do a super huge giveaway. That's all I have for today, folks. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.